Life, it's a work in progress. It's about moments, memories, people, connections. And every interaction that I do with people that matters to me motivates me and inspires me to be better and to continue progressing in this work of life. Conversations with extraordinary people about this beautiful journey called life. And you're going to find it here in the Visible Audio Podcast. Okay, so I am so excited today. There's a lady here that I haven't seen in a long time, and I've been dying to talk to her. Please, let's welcome Audrey Kelly to the podcast today. Hi, Audrey.
Hello.
I am so happy to see you.
Happy to see you.
We've known each other for a long time in our times of social work and behavioral health. But we haven't seen and talked to each other actually. I don't think like this outside, the work compound. So today, as you probably know, the topic for today is self-esteem. And what a topic, first of all. And I'm sure probably Audrey thinks the same way. But before we go on into it, I want to make sure that Audrey gets to introduce herself and also talk about a project that she has been working on. And I think that's the main reason why I got motivated to invite her to this episode. So why don't you tell us a little bit more about that, Audrey?
All right. So like Daniela said, my name is Audrey Kelly. So I am 32 years old. I currently live in Tennessee, in Murfreesboro, Tennessee. And I work as a hospice social worker for a living, but I also have a business called Self-Care Culture. And self-care culture is all about everything self-care related. So that's emotional, spiritual, and physical health. And so, that I'm just really passionate about it and really excited to see people take better care of themselves and pour into them before they pour into everyone else and into everything else that they have going on in their everyday lives. So that's kind of just what I do, kind of just what I'm excited about, and kind of helping people in their everyday lives take better care of themselves.
Amen. Don't we need more of that?
Definitely.
Everywhere, please. So you can understand why I wanted to talk to Audrey about this. And the fun thing is that the more I was digging into the topic of self-esteem and kind of revising things, because I'm like, oh my gosh, I at least have to make sure that I'm at the level of Audrey here or something. I was digging more and more, and there's so much more. And it's almost, I discovered that how much self-esteem is linked to so many other concepts that we needed in our lives. And I'm glad to hear that, but I'm like, in my head, I'm like, oh my gosh, Audrey, this episode, I don't want it to take 4 hours long because we don't have that kind of time. But at the same time, I'm like, how do I concise it? So if you probably see my notebook of notes, I have like everywhere notes, but let's dig into it because I'm so excited. So when I talk about a topic, I always go into the meaning of it. So the meaning that I found for self-esteem is individual subject evaluation of their own worth, which I'm like, okay, yeah, that's pretty much it. But so when I was watching this show, this guy also talked about the meaning in our, the Spanish language dictionary. Mm-hmm. And it's something very similar. It says positive value that typically one makes about oneself. Well, if it's something that, we should have, how does a dictionary has a subjective or typical meaning on it, on a word that is supposed to be, a fact? So because it says typically one makes about myself. So I typically, or I'm supposed to say this about myself. And I think it's because self-esteem is not just black and white. It's not really, you do have all the self-esteem and you don't. It's kind of a balance, right? Like what do we make out of it?
I mean, I definitely agree that it is kind of a balance, and it's not black and white. I think there's plenty of ways that people define self-esteem. I think that there are some misconceptions. There's things that people consider to be self-esteem and actually has nothing to do with actual
Right.
self-esteem. So I think that when it comes to the actual definition of self-esteem, it can't be subjective. It has to be something that you've come up internally with for yourself and what you consider that to be. I mean, it is. I think there is some good things about that definition that you kind of listed out about, your own perspective of your worth. I think that that is a big thing when it comes to self-esteem is how do you view your worth? How do you view
Yeah.
your value? Like, what are those intrinsic factors that play into that? I think that that's a big deal when it comes to the definition of self-esteem and how we view it in totality. Like, what aspects that we pull in that are going to define that for us.
Right. And I think that that's the hardest part, because it's a concept that um, has to be in a way a concept itself for everybody, but yet we have to kind of personalize, like you said, and what it means to us. Obviously, there are some general concepts, I want to say, that we can all agree with. But at the end, what is that thing that maybe even increase your self-esteem or helps you motivate you be more you, right? So I wanted to, like I said, I'm trying to guide myself because this is so broad. But like one of the things that I thought about was, what are the traits or characteristics of self-esteem? Because in my head, and it was funny because I was looking for this and I got a very superficial answer out of the wonderful encyclopedia of Google, and then and then I got the the articles from Psychology Today and stuff like that. And at the end of the day, they were so different, similar in some aspects, that I thought, well, some of them mean to me self-esteem, but some of them really don't. And I don't know what you think, but I think that going back to the first answer about the definition, I think that the traits or characteristics of self-esteem, yes, there's a generic bound of it, but I think there's some that are going to be very personal to me.
Right.
I don't know if you have encountered that question before about it, or have thought about what the characteristics specific or traits of self-esteem of a person that has a good self-esteem, how a person that has a good self-esteem should look like. If you see on the street.
You know what? Kim Kardashian. No, I'm just kidding.
Okay.
Like, some people, they have this persona, like they have like high self-esteem, high worth, but internally that's not there. That's something that's not there.
Right.
And so I think a person who exemplifies or who does have high self-esteem, they are able to take criticism and take it well. That is a good trait to have, like a person who has high self-esteem, like they're able to do that. And also, I mean, they don't have to seek the validation of other people. They kind of just,
yes.
They know, like for themselves, like, I got this, like,
That's
I
true.
need someone to check in with me every 5 minutes for their validation, because I feel okay with myself internally, and I know that outside of you, I have worth, and it's not tied to anyone else. And I think that is I think that's the thing that a lot of people struggle with, because we tie our worth to other things. But at the time, like the person who has that high self-worth, that high self-esteem, they're not tying it to other people. They're not tying it to other things. They don't seek validation from the things that they have going on externally. They seek it from within. And I think that that is where that self-love comes into play. They respect themselves. They respect their boundaries. Those are traits of people who have that high self-worth. Those boundaries, a person crosses their boundaries, they're willing to put that hard, firm no in place.
Yeah.
Someone who doesn't have high self-esteem, like it just, they get walked all over generally because they don't have those boundaries, and people are able to take advantage of that. So I think that when you have that worth and you know who you are and you're kind of confident in that, you're able to kind of walk in it proudly and say no, or be able to accept who you are for your flaws, your imperfections, and the things that just make you, and be okay with it.
Right. And I think that that's why they say you have to learn to love first before you can love somebody else.
Bingo.
Yeah, it is so true. And, if anything that I would love to teach my girls will be that main thing of love yourself, love who you are for who you are, with your flaws and all. This is who you are. Embrace it. And that after that, you can talk to me about boyfriends and stuff. So they will have boyfriends at 40, probably. because it's true. I mean, when we are younger, we really don't, we think about the superficial things of, what maybe self-esteem is, and maybe there's some external traits, and because I look good, I'm going to have a good self-esteem. But that's not true. I think that point on it's so true. I think that you dig into something that it should be a generic term and a generic definition into self-esteem for everybody, no matter what your definition may be of self-esteem. That should be in it,
right,
very well engraved there. So I will tell you what, after seeing all these traits and stuff like that and reading articles, I came up with my own that word that I value. And I was going to say that I do value, but that what you said, it's in there. So first of all, I think that if, it was a lot of wants, you have to want to be this, I guess. But first, to want to be healthy. And to me, that's very important. But I was thinking more into, you want not only your body to be healthy, but you want your mind to be healthy. You want to be present. You want to be here. Because I think that that's how you can make better decisions for yourself. And I think that that's going to let you think all the things that you mentioned and incorporate it in your body and in your life and, all that. So that to me was important in order to have good self-esteem. It's to kind of take care of yourself in a way, if you want to do it that way. Then the other thing was knowing your limitations. And I think it works for me because me personally, sometimes I just, like you said, you need to know your boundaries. And I feel like you need to, this is going to allow you to know yourself a little better, what you're capable to do, and what you may need help learning, right? Mm-hmm. And in life in general, not putting limitations, that's not what I mean. I mean, just learning that. And I think with that, you can learn also about yourself. But like I said, this was my crazy thoughts on self-esteem. You may have your own concept. And the other one that I thought, it was that I feel that a lot of people that I see with that are confident in self-esteem, I relate a lot with confidence, has also good communication skills. I know this may be very superficial, but I mean, when talking about human beings, just like the nature part of it, mm-hmm. We, in a way, to relate to each other, we have to communicate, whether it's through signs, through language. I think that that's a very basic thing that not many people take in consideration, that that can improve some areas of your life. I feel that if you have better communication skills, you're more prompt to talk to other people, to discuss certain things that maybe you're not too sure about or even confident on, but you're confident on your communication skills, and that will allow you to open up. I think that that's those are some things that I know are not the typical builders of self-esteem, but for me that meant, quite a bit. So I don't know. And from all of those, I start thinking about this too. Who really teaches you about self-esteem? If you can think about that,
That's a really good question, Daniela. A really good question. I think that personally, I think that when a person develops their self-esteem, it starts from childhood. I honestly believe that our parents are our biggest influencers.
Yes, yes.
And they can make or break it.
Like that.
Just like that. I mean, and it doesn't even have to be intentional. I just think that they just have such an influence over, a child at that age, and especially at a very young age when they're most impressionable. Like, I think that, we've worked with children and we see how parents have that influence over their children's behaviors. And I think that, our parents, they play a huge part in our lives, and our self-esteem has to be, it starts with them. Honestly, it starts with them and how we've been raised.
I think that that's the most surprising thing to me when I became a parent. You kind of know it in theory, and like you said, we have worked with children and families for so many years, and you kind of have that engraved in your brain, and you know it, and it becomes almost like second nature when you work at it. But when you become a parent, whoa, like what's going on? It's a whole different spectrum. And yes, my background and my, all that, my work background has helped me do that, thank goodness, and learning how to deal with different situations as it comes. But when it's somebody that you love in that way, it becomes just so different. And when I thought about that question that I just asked, I actually immediately thought the same thing. It has to come from your parents, from people that you trust, right? So people that you love, that you trust, because the kids are so impressionable, and they are in a way so emotionally fragile, and they're going to absorb everything that you teach them. And like you said also, yes, parents do what they do with the best of intentions, as they have learned it and as they know it's best. So please, kids, be good on your parents. And if my kids are watching this later in life, I did what I could. But the truth is that it has to be from people that you trust. But then as we grow up, then I feel that there's other people that we start trusting, that we see out there, that we can relate to. And some of them may give us a false impression of trust, like maybe celebrities or people like that, right? And so people that we don't know, but we trust for some reason, because we can relate to them, because there's a connection there. And so I feel that sometimes that can be a little bit dangerous, especially when teenagers and younger adults get into that fascination for other people and try to learn maybe their confidence or self-esteem from them by doing what they're doing, because they're giving a persona that, they have it all together, which may not be true. Probably not, because they're humans. We all don't have it all together. So that sometimes scares me a little bit. Rightfully so. We as even adults do that. I mean, we as older adults do that. So you can imagine, right?
Yes, we definitely do. But I definitely can see your point. You know, I don't have children yet. However, I've been in that space, you know, for myself, you know, having
Oh,
been
I have
raised.
too. Yeah. When I was much younger. Yeah.
And like as a teenager, like I felt like my self-esteem took like a huge hit just because you know, friends being in high school and the you know, being surrounded by my peers, and my peers were harsh back then. They were super harsh. And so, you know, it's like different things like, you know, the boys didn't know how to communicate that great at that time, at that age. And so their way of doing things was they would pick on you or say different things, make different comments, be very self-conscious. And like that would just, you know, affect a teenage girl's self-esteem. And
Definitely.
so, you know, and then like your friends, like, I don't know what it is about being a teenager, but somehow like as a teenager, you compare a lot. You compare yourself to your friends, you compare yourself to nowadays, like granted, the internet and social media was just like becoming popular once I was in high school, like my senior year, towards my senior year of high school. And so I didn't have like that social media influence as much, but like I see it now with like the teenagers and like you know, different people that I follow on the internet, how much like image is such a huge thing. And so you know, people have those different factors that play into their own self-esteem, and the teens, you know, that I'm around, like they feed off of that. They feed off of the social media to like feed their esteem. And I'm like, no, that is the worst thing. Don't do it. Because it's like, if you take that away, what is left? Like, if you take the social media away, like, how are you then going to feel as though you are worth something if someone is not feeding into that? And so I'm just so leery about those things. And so and having been there for myself, like, I just know that it's such a battle to, you know, to build your esteem. And then like those parents, like that's why you have to have that foundational relationship from your parents, to have them like feed into your esteem early and let you know and help like solidify your identity so that you know who you are before others are like feeding and speaking into your ear and speaking different things into your life. So you're kind of like sure of yourself. And so it doesn't really matter. Those things can kind of like, you know, flow off your shoulders just a little bit. Like you're like, oh, okay, yeah, you can say that, but I know who I am internally. And so, or this can happen to me, or, you know, or I can be on social media and be okay with not getting the likes. I can be okay with, you know, not having, you know, so many friends on social media, because it's okay, because I don't find my worth in those things. I find my worth in knowing that regardless if you like me or not, I am a good person. I'm a great person. I know that I'm beautiful inside and out. So it doesn't matter what anyone else has to say about it.
That's right. Oh my gosh. Yes, please. I'm just going to cut this section to show to teens. I'm going to send to high schools everywhere. But it's so true. And the fact that we have learned that, you know, as we progress in adulthood, I guess that's natural progression of maturing. But at the same time, I wish that a lot of teenagers could hear more of this from people that they trust, from people that they see out there in the media. And I think that I've seen a little more movement with younger generations to speak up a lot about that, which is great. I think it's really healthy and good. But yeah, there's that danger that they could lead to that falls, especially when a teenager can be so susceptible to wanting to look for that role model and finding it in the wrong place or with the wrong idea. That's a very fragile, you know, several years there of maturity of, you know, when teenagers are going through that growth. that, that I think that you touched such an important subject of, how parents have to learn to trust their teenage kids so their teenage kids can trust them. And that's so hard, and I'm not looking forward to those years at all. But at the same time, the building starts now. I mean, it starts when they are so young, and when they know that they can trust you, and they can go to you without that judgment. And I know that's, I can speak for parents everywhere, that's so hard. But yeah, I mean, that's a natural progression of growth, and the expanding wonderful area of internet and all technology, which is good, but there's always people there that take advantage of it, as usual.
Really.
Right?